the third principle is be awake and fully conscious. So be woke.
Be woke, man.
woke.
Good, be woke. What I do in this principle is I help people understand that their behaviors are the results. How they're behaving is a result. It's a byproduct. And in that principle, I want them to focus on behavior. And then from their behavior, catching themselves behaving a certain way, they're able to backtrack to be able to understand the belief that's driving the behavior. So that's what that is. So being awake and fully conscious really is my way of saying, pay attention. Yeah. Somebody just said something to you and you decided to respond with sarcasm, which is anger's little cousin, right? Which is always a sign of passive aggression, which is a sign of insecurity. And the insecurity is specifically in the belief that I'm not good enough. I know that was a lot for one statement, but that's just how it works. And I can expand if you'd like. So we know that now. So now, Susie says something to me and I hit her with a sarcastic remark. We know that Jackie has a deep-rooted belief that she's not good enough. And that's why she's decided to be snarky with Susie. Instead of saying to Susie, what did you, I don't understand. What did you mean by that? Now, Susie could have been being insecure herself and being difficult or being a biatch. But it doesn't mean I have to be.
So this is a bit like being, I had it described recently as a sort of watchtower, like being able to sort of watch our thoughts and feelings and being conscious and awake to them.
Yeah,
right?
so in neurolinguistics programming, one of the things that the people that go through my program learn, they understand about perceptual positions. So perceptual positions, I'm just going to address this. You talk about first position, second position, third position. First position in this conversation at this moment, as me having this experience, I am looking at this conversation from my position. And then second position would be, all right, so Chris is over here, and now he's interviewing me. What is his experience? Now, I can only interpret or guess, but if I had to interpret or guess what so that's second position, having the ability to look at it from the other person's perspective. Now, it's impossible to do it fully because I'm not Chris, but understanding that he has a perspective. And then we have the third position, which is the observer. So if there was a third person and watching us, which there is, because we're an interview, there's cameras rolling, so obviously there's third people watching us. So they actually would have a very different perspective of what I think, how our interaction is going on. I think, oh yeah, this is amazing, blah, blah, Chris is like, I don't know, this woman's confused me, whatever. That other person would have a whole other interpretation of what that dynamic is. So
it's also being kind of awake and fully conscious to others, to what they are.
It's just be awake and fully conscious. And like I said, through that program, through that principle, I start to uncover all of these different aspects of how this looks. It can get a little bit deep, people will say, yes, I was learning about being the observer. I called it third position. In metaphysical or spiritual circles, they'll talk about it as being the observer. And I'll say, but if you can, then I like to mess them around when they I like to play a bit with them, and they'll say, yes, but so I'm just observing and I'm just being the observer because I am not, I am not that, I am not me, I am the observer. And I say, really? You are? And they'll say, yes. And I'll say, are you sure? And they'll say, well, yes. And I'll say, well, if you're the observer, how do you know? You sure you're not the guy observing the observer? Where does this end? And down the rabbit hole we go. But being awake and fully conscious is just really calling out to people, look, start paying attention. Don't judge yourself for behaving poorly, for example. Don't judge yourself for behaving poorly. Just understand what drove it. And then when you understand what drove it, then you can go in and have a visit, and you can change
catch yourself
it.
judging as well. Yeah.
You can own it. You can grab your personal power, and you can say, hey, I did that, and that's because of this. And you know what? I'm not that anymore. I'm going to work on changing that. And oh, glorious you. You're going to work on changing that. Good for you. Or you know what? I don't want to change that. F you, buddy. Okay, then don't change it. There's no judgment to me. It's not, it's, we come in alone, we're going out alone. That's it.
Yeah.
You and your maker.